uh, I'm making this presentation. Well, it's not presentation. I'm making this video at the backdrop of what I've seen on social media. A lot of people making fun to an extent that they are calling these explorers foolish, and so they're making a lot of fun out of them, and they are questioning why would even someone do that. Uh, I I take a different view. I don't think they were stupid. For obvious reasons, people like taking risks, and the engineering side of it would show you the risks that they went for are essentially too risky because people want to be pioneers in break new ground. So for me, I'm making this video based on, so this video is just to make to have a conversation as Africans about things that we do and things that we should be doing but we're not doing because we're basing it on something else. Maybe just to give a small snippet. So there's a tornado there's a tornado that's happening in KwaZulu Natal, South Africa. So this is mid June. This is yeah no this is end of June 2023 in South Africa. So there's a mini tornado that blasted KwaZulu Natal. Guess what? People are saying it's a snake. So they call it Mamlambo. They call it in South Africa. They call that snake Mamlambo. It's a mystical figure. No one has ever seen it. So people are just conditions to fear it. So that mini tornado is associated with that, to an extent that for us Africans, if there's big bodies of water, we say there's a snake there. If there's a big jungle, a mountain or something, they would say there's a snake there. This relationship with a snake, it's almost to celebrate us fearing things. There are certain things that we as African people we fear, and if you do not fear them, you are made to be. Well, let me not even go there, but let me just talk about. Go back to the Sea Gate. So the Sea Gate issue. Just want to put something to perspective. It says here about, I'm talking about statistics over this year. It says over 80 people have died from risky adventures in 2023 only. Over 80 people. You just heard about 5 of the one who went. So this involves people who were climbing Mount Everest, people who have went hiking in mountains and did not make it back. People explore and go on adventure, and this is how humans learn. And unfortunately, in the pursuit of this knowledge, people die. And I do understand sometimes the pursuit of this knowledge is to break new ground, to be the first of doing something. That part I do understand. But the human nature forces people to do such things. So, uh, you know, this I'm saying at the background of, we know what it means for certain people to do certain things. The figure that I gave you of about 80 people who died this year for using a tennis analogy would be unforced errors. So people who just went out of their way to put themselves in risky, unprovoked, put themselves in risky situations where they ended up dying. So this is what an adventurer or an explorer would do. Unprovoked go, and what Christians would say, they'll be testing God, because these people who died in the submarine are said to have wanted to test God. So you watch, so these 80 people, I'm just assuming at the back of my mind, I don't have statistics and I don't think I need statistics. I would think majority are white people. So we call people, a lot of people call this white people risks, the risks that white people would do that we wouldn't do. But there are risks that Africans do that white people don't do. We'll talk about some. I can just give an example of stowaways, people who ride into planes and fly over. Some make it, some die. But I'm just giving you an example. So let me go back. I shouldn't be alive. So it's one of the It's one of the best series that I can use, the most popular one, where if you look, I've never seen an African person on I Shouldn't Be Alive, and all the people in I Shouldn't Be Alive would seem to have tested fate, as it were. They were on adventure. You see someone who's lost in a forest or lost at sea without equipment to bring themselves back, or they don't have beacons, they don't have stuff, and but it is the culture of themselves putting themselves in places where they will have to to survive the elements. So, and people love it, the submarine billionaires, because people, they say, but what if they died? Of course, that's why it's a risk, that's why it's an adventure, that's why these people are explorers. They wanted to explore an opportunity for to do exploration of that place on a tourism level. You'd see people, Elon Musk is trying his best to make sure that people go to Mars. People are trying to make, or trying their best to make sure that people, there's a space travel where people could go to the moon and back. If you could pay it and then you sponsor it, then you go. So these things do happen. I'm just stating it as the examples here. So the reason African people don't do such in their majority, and white people do it in their majority, according to me, is, when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are certain things there that will convince you that of course other people have to do this. Chief amongst them is the fact that at the very beginning of everything, people would want to self-preserve. So if the first thing you would want to have money, then you check your safety, then you check relationships, and then you start to ascend. And at the very top is self-actualization. So what it means, self-actualization, according to Maslow, the hierarchy of needs, you've almost achieved anything. You don't have issues with shelter, you don't have issues with food, you don't have issues with relationships, forming relationships. You are sorted. Everything of yours is sorted. So what you want to do, you are seeking your internal voice just to make you appease yourself. So that is self-actualization of what Maslow is doing. So it could be the reason why people, after having achieved anything, they don't have problems with bond, they don't have problems with, then they put themselves in what, according to us, because we are poor, we think are stupid environments where they will end up dying, and then we say they are testing God. So being there as it may, so that would be, according to me, the difference between Africans and whites, as to explain why is it that they do what they do. So I've recently watched, I've watched Bill Nye. So Bill Nye says, if people lose this innate feel for themselves to go out and explore, even their yard at home, we will perish as a species. Well, of course, we can't prove it, but it's in our nature. Kids grow up to play, and you grow up to play, and you last, and that ability, or that innate feeling on you, that instinct to keep wanting to explore, it is forever there. You see, if we don't explore, we will never learn, in other words. And we do not travel, we do not want to go anywhere as Africans, because we fear certain things. I give you an example about the snake, about this and that. In fact, let me just give you an example. So Mapungube in north of South Africa is a very important place in South African history, because it's a place where certain certain tribe. Others say they're Shonas, others say it's Bavenda who lived there. So it was a mountain kingdom where they lived in that mountain. So when people wanted to climb that Kopi, I will call it a Kopi. So a Kopi is just a small mountain in South Africa. So when they wanted to, so there was an African guy who walked with them. He said, "I can show you the place, but I cannot look at it because we believe certain things are a curse, and we do not want to be cursed." I'm trying to a superstition. So we fear certain superstitions. So the guy looked at the other opposite direction, and he pointed out to say that direction is where you should climb. And the white explorers, adventurers went there. They received. Let me show the rhino. So this is the golden rhino that they found there. They found a lot of things, and some they took them to University of Pretoria. Well, some will never know what did they keep, because others, the stories say they kept them at their own homes. So those are, I mean, treasures that was left by our forefathers for us, but we did not want to take it because we believed that place is there's a superstition that relates to that, and we didn't go. But white people went there and they took it. They didn't even care. So let's talk about Sibusiso Vilani. So Sibusiso Vilani is a mountain adventurer. He grew up in Swaziland, but he's by all intents and purposes a South African. So Sibusiso Vilani he did Kilimanjaro. He did Mount Everest twice. He's the first African. He's the first African in Africa to do it, to do Mount Everest twice from both sides. He climbed on both directions of Mount Everest, and so he's an adventurer. And this is what is telling about Sibusiso Vilani. A lot of people call Sibusiso Vilani a white man in a black person's body, because he's an adventurer. People in his village called him that. They said he did all seven peaks of the world, seven out of seven, so seven highest peaks in 7 continents. He did that. He's a brilliant guy. You should listen to him, and he's a motivational speaker, and I love him to bits because he's an adventurer. He teaches people to go beyond. Of course there are risks. Of course people do die. And in fact, it reminds me of Gugu Zulu. So Gugu Zulu is a South African. He was a motor race driver. He was a celebrity driver. And it must have been 2016. I could be wrong. So he went to Mount Kilimanjaro, and he had problems. I think maybe days in camp before they even ascended. He had respiratory problems, or I don't know what is it, but Gugu didn't make it. So Gugu Zulu died. He's a South African guy. Zulu is a Zulu man. But Gugu Zulu story, it hurts me because when it happened, a lot of people were saying, why did he die doing white man stuff? You understand? So this is again the problem that I have. There are certain things that, well, it shouldn't be white people stuff. It should be human nature to explore, to want to explore and find out certain things that we should. The Wright brothers, the guys who pioneered the aviation industry. I don't want to debate if it was them or it was Otto who did gliding before them. I don't want to debate that, but so they are the fathers of aviation, the two brothers. I forgot their names, but the Wright brothers, they used mathematics. They didn't go to school. They used mathematics from other mathematicians, so they could solve their aviation problems, the yaw, the yai, and how to turn the plane. And Otto himself died. So Otto is the guy who did this before them, but he was gliding. So Otto died doing this, and I remember when they went back to America, there's a guy who, I tried to find his name, who when they were testing this first plane, he also died. So people do die whenever human progress. I mean, the space agency. I'm jumping now to what NASA has done. So NASA, I just tried to find records here, but there are a lot of people died. I think which could be maybe. It's a lot of people died. I don't have the figures, but I'll show you there. So the cosmonauts and the astronauts, they did die before we had as well. So the space missions in the world, they keep going. It's an ever expanding field, and there are people who say NASA is misusing billions that could be saving poverty and everything. But there are a lot of conveniences that we get from what NASA is doing, and amongst them, of course, is this internet that we are using, and and the satellites and everything. Just example. So I'm not a scientist. It will be difficult for me to expand it, but I'm just showing you that for the space what is the space industry, I don't know, lack of a better word, for the space to proceed forward, people had to die. So when people die, it doesn't mean they are dying because they are stupid. The risk is inherently everywhere. And let me give you an example of what I said when I said African people fear certain things, but certain things they don't fear. So this is winter in South Africa. So it's in June and it's school holidays. Let me tell you, if I'll just show you the stats of how many young African men die every year. Young South African men dying every year across tribal lines. There are a lot of tribes who send their kids to mountain schools, so it's the initiation schools for circumcision. These boys die in droves. I tell you what, if it was another race, people would have, it would have been different. But let me tell you, I spoke about we fear different things. Kids run away from their homes. They run away to go to those, even though people die. I mean, their peers die. These numbers are staggering. The reasons for death would be various things I don't want to enter into, but I'm just showing you that even when people die, people still go there and pursue this thing that the mountain school for circumcision, so they can be a man that be recognized in their communities and their villages as men. So here's a beautiful thing. So James Cameron. James Cameron. Let's just call it a director without going into his brilliant movies. Titanic itself, of course. Titanic. So James Cameron is essentially an explorer. So James Cameron he holds a world record for going down at the Mariana Trench. So the Mariana Trench, for those who don't know, is like the deepest place on Earth. It's in the Atlantic Ocean. It's very, very, very deep. So he went there. It's about 11 kilometers down. So where Titanic is about less than 4 kilometers, in fact. So where Titanic is less than 4 kilometers, James Cameron did 11 kilometers down underneath the ocean with a small I'm calling it small, but it's not small, but his submersible was like vertically shaped. They had to tilt it. It went down. It took him, I think it's 4 hours. I can't remember. Maybe more than 4 hours for it to go down. It took him forever to go down, and he reached the bottom. He's the man who went the furthest down, and I think he built that submarine with Australians, and so you could understand the bravery of that guy to do this. Someone would ask what. I remember when he came back a few years ago, he came with a plastic full of mud underneath the soil, and a lot of people were laughing. Someone wanted to die for that. Apologies, I got cut. I was saying, so the mud, the sea floor in the trench, from the Mariana Trench that James Cameron came with, it was celebrated like gold by the marine scientists and everyone, while he was loved by the media. By the way, I don't know what happened. I didn't even go further to to understand what he found in that little package, because he went to the seafloor and scraped with that vehicle that went down. But it just shows you that that Maslow hierarchy of needs, that James Cameron has conquered just about everything. Well, I believe he has done everything that needs to be done. He's an explorer. He's got money to fund stuff, and he fell in love with the Titanic when he gave it to us, and he himself has went to the depth that the other guys went on. The Seagate went. He's done I think a few Titanic well, should I even call it expedition, a few dives into Titanic, but look, well, he himself, James Cameron, does indicate that mission was fraught with a lot of engineering problems, to say, but all I'm saying is, let's not mistaken people who have done things wrongfully, and we confuse people doing things for good purposes. Exploration has its history, and exploration does have its future with us, and we will continue doing it. When I say continue, I'm not talking about myself, of course. The rich will always find a way. I mean, if the people who are poor now, they could afford the things that the rich people are doing, they would also want to go and spend the night watching the stars in Table Mountain, for instance. If they could afford it, they would do it just for the prestige and everything. Look, a lot of hikers are still going to die this year. A lot of people, few people are still going to die on Mount Everest. People are currently dying as we speak, doing what they love, what is their passion, what they've always wanted to conquer. And this is just the history of men, and we will always do it. Let me just cut the video here. Thank you. I hope you understood my point. Just for us Africans to say, when people die, they die for advancement of human achievement. The people who died in what is this, in the Mediterranean, there are still more who are going to die. They are dying because they are running away from certain conditions, and there's a difference between those and those who die because they've got the edge to know more. But let me not get political. Let me leave it there. Thank you for watching. Well, like, comment, and also subscribe, and please make sure that you advise us on what other topics you would like to hear. Thank you. Politically Incorrect Podcast. Thank you very much.